Welcome, welcome, welcome. Live podcast here. It's Charmed Life, and I'm your host, Tricia Carr. I'm very excited to be here with you today. This is going to be a powerful episode, a powerful conversation with my very special guest, which I will be introducing in just a moment. And I just wanted to give us all a great encouragement for our money mindset. That's what's on my heart today. And I wanted to just mention one thing about this word mindset because I feel like we learn about the law of attraction, but we don't always understand how to actually bring it into our life because maybe the way we hear it or the way it's explained doesn't quite land. Then we also hear about something like wealth mindset, growth mindset, money mindset. So I want to give you a little some consideration, something to consider about mindset. Think of mindset as boundaries for your mind, for the guests that you will have in the house of your mind. And those guests are your thoughts. Thoughts which trigger feelings in your body. Feelings in your body will help to either enhance or diminish your intuition. And so just think about mindset as boundaries of the thoughts that you want to have in your house because of if we don't want unwanted guests in our house, right? Won't that pollute your home environment? Won't that keep you from having your home life flow the way that you want it, to keep it clean, to keep it high vibrational? Same for your mind, and your mind does create your reality. So just a little something to contemplate for you. And I'm going to be doing a webinar really soon on how we could actually make that all work for us. So, what I want to invite you to do in order to be able to stay tuned for when I'm doing things that are free, like a webinar, or when I am doing a course or a workshop, you want to join my newsletter. And I have a free gift for you to do that. And it's right here now in the comments. I've just made available a free mini course. It's animal and nature communication. It's an introduction. It's actually the intuitive connection, animal and nature intuitive connection. I'm saying it wrong. So if you want access to that free course, you'll also just get to sign up for my mailing list. And I have another little free gift for you. And this one is a really awesome meditation. It's like a hypnotic journey, and it's to connect with your higher self. And it's called Crystal Pyramid Higher Self Meditation. So you get access to these free gifts, but you'll be able to join that mailing list so that you can join when I'm going to give a free webinar. Also, you'll be the first to know about courses that I'm offering. And many of my courses and different things that I'm doing, I have scholarships. And the only way that I actually announce scholarships is through my mailing list. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to be on that mailing list. And oh, well, in addition to that, pardon me as I look to the side, I'm live producing my show, after all. The other reason you want to is because I also create blogs or articles that are, I think they're pretty valuable, so you want to be there for all of that content. Now, another couple of things I want to mention to you before I bring on my guest, and that is modern mystic. And I'm going to put this up here. I have a live meditation that is for my modern mystic subscribers, and this is really an amazing subscription platform. It is a way that you can support the Charmed Life podcast, but it's so much more. It's very, very high value, very low investment, very easy investment. It's $11 per month. You get 2 live meetings with me. One's a meditation, one is a really fantastic esoteric workshop. We actually come together live. And then you also get exclusive content delivered to you throughout the week, which is, I mean, it's really amazing. So I just want to invite you to do that. It's a beautiful community. That is one of the perks that you just won't be able to get enough of, is the community, because that's how we actually grow so fast, exponentially, personally, spiritually, is to be in community with others, which including, watching a podcast, listening to a podcast is a part of that. I also want to let you know about Sacred Sphere. We have our next meeting coming up this Sunday, which is November 12th, as I am recording and broadcasting this. And that is a community for intuition and manifestation development. If you are a psychic reader or if you are not, it's a place for you. If you want to work on your manifestation, it's a place for you. if you want to work on your intuition for your life, it is a place for you. There's teaching, meditation, community, and people go into breakout rooms and either practice techniques of manifestation that we are learning or offer to give intuitive readings to one another. And the people who are there are expert readers who I have been working with for years. And again, that may be you or it may not be, but Sacred Sphere is a really dynamic community that I'm so excited is growing and it's so beautiful. So find the links there and join us. And so, without further delay, as you are pumping up your mindset, I want to invite our guest on. Oh, actually, let me say that if you want to say hello in the comments as we're going along, we love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, that would be great. We would love to hear from you in that area as well. So, my guest today is an expert in the divine feminine, and she helps people with particularly women, with the transformations that are occurring in their lives. And I have so many questions for her. So, welcome to the podcast, Lisa.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here today.
And I was recently on your podcast, which is Trans
Mhm.
45. Yes, is that it?
Yes, that is correct. Transforming 45. Yeah.
So we had a great conversation then. It was a few months ago, but I'm really excited now to hear all about you because we mostly talked about me before. So, would you please let the audience know what your journey has been like and the work that you're doing because it's phenomenal and I want to hear more about it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, my work and my journey are really intertwined.
Mhm.
So, I was an educator for 20 years, and I went into education in directly out of school. And it never felt like a place that I was really welcome to be in.
Mm.
So I was a person who I love kids. I loved I love supporting learning and curiosity. But the institution of education I found to be very, very challenging. And I was always in a place where I was trying to change it and
Yeah.
it was trying to change me.
Mm.
And it came to a point actually just before COVID happened, a year or two before that, where I turned to my partner, my husband, and I said, I don't think I can do this for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
And needless to say, that's a pretty scary proposition for a family member, because teaching is pretty stable, right?
Yeah.
So saying, I want to leave this behind to be an entrepreneur and to jump into something totally fresh and new was not an easy conversation. So it
Yeah.
took us a couple of years to navigate that. And for me to really get to a place, and it took the universe actually like kicking down the door and saying, yeah, this place is no longer for you.
Yeah.
And that happened in a number of different, very sequenced events.
Mhm.
And so I got to the last event where I was for the last 10 years of my career, I had been coaching other educators and providing professional development.
Oh, great.
And I loved that work. That work was mostly around supporting kiddos who speak multiple languages. So there's a lot of anti oppression work in that.
Mm.
And when you're doing that in a system, you don't necessarily make a lot of friends. And
Mm.
so I went from that work to teaching grade 6 online in a closet under the stairs, literally.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
How? Was it
which
because of the pandemic? But why, yeah, why in that fashion?
yeah. So I had written a job actually
Mhm.
for that was the next phase for what our system needed.
Mhm.
And I was unsuccessful in getting that job.
Mm.
And so I had to apply to a school. And the job that I got was teaching grade 6 online. It was 2021, so it was still pandemic
Mhm.
time. And for those of us who are teaching online, there weren't classrooms.
Yeah, of course.
So the space was literally a closet under the stairs.
Yeah.
And I loved the kids in that space, but it was incredibly energy expensive to
Mm.
show up in that way every day to make a space for kids where they wanted to come and be there. And I loved coaching, like in the decade before, where I had learned about coaching and being actively engaged in that work. I knew that was my passion. That was where I really needed to be. So I took a year's leave from education to see what I could do. And I officially resigned in June and I launched my company
This year?
Lean In.
In 23?
Mhm.
Ah,
Yeah, in
that's when I
23.
met you. I don't
Yes.
remember, had you already done it then when we met?
I think I probably, it was right around that time.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's been a huge leap.
Mhm,
And so I founded my business, Lean In Finding Your Way Home Coaching. And at the same time as what was happening for me professionally, what was happening to me in my personal life was my children were heading into their late teen years. And I had this, I still remember it. I was sitting outside of my deck and I had always thought that the transition into, sort of them being more independent and doing their thing would be gradual.
mhm.
Turns out it is not at all.
Oh,
The
yeah?
trans No, the transition to them suddenly being their own people and being independent and doing their own thing happens almost as instantaneously as a new human coming
Ha
into your world.
Having a baby. Yeah. Oh, wild.
Yeah. And I was not anticipating that.
Oh, wow.
And so that happened. And I realized I was on the other side of everything I had ever dreamed for my life.
Mm,
Because the narrative in front of us is school, career, young family.
mhm.
And then there's sort of like the distant idea of retirement.
Yeah.
But
But that
there
happens
is
so far away, and how do you do that anyway?
exactly
Who knows? It just happens naturally. That's what
right. Exactly. So I realized I was in a phase of my life I had never even considered.
Yeah.
I had never even thought about what this part of my life would be or feel like,
Mhm,
because every way I had defined myself in terms of roles, which were actually outside of myself, but roles that I was playing, that's how I defined myself. And all of those roles fell away.
mm,
And so I was left with, well, who am I? And how do I want this next chapter to be?
yeah.
And so that's what brought me to where I am now.
Mm. And we were we were starting to get into the conversation of just how I mean, maybe especially with women. I know men have
Mhm.
their own challenges in transforming. They particularly men have, and if we, pardon us for being binary for a bit, but
Yeah.
men have an issue at retirement. Some men, not all men, but it's common for men to have an issue around retirement. And then there's also this other thing when men can't drive their car anymore, like when they get their
Mhm.
driver's license taken away. Both of these things are devastating to their identity
Mhm.
because I mean, it wouldn't be for my husband. He'd be like, "Perfect. I'm gonna climb mountains," or whatever he could do if he's 80, if his body still works that way. But
Yeah.
some men, like, that's been their purpose. But for women, it's, like, just gauzy and of obscurity, like, it's not
Mhm.
addressed
No.
because and I wonder if it has to do with think of culture, the the emphasis on the maiden and the mother. And Crone is like, "Ew,
Mhm.
no. No, but she's
Yep.
beautiful." And by the way, the crone has the mother and the maiden within her, no matter what.
Yes.
Like they are interdependent, beautiful aspects of the divine spiritual feminine for humans. And so I shared with you privately, and I'm going to share
Mhm.
it publicly because why not?
Please do.
I just took a step into perimenopause. Finally, I'm 49. It seems like it should have started already, but it happens at all different times. Who knows?
Mhm.
But and this, like, even just that, our cycles they're shameful. Oh my goodness. And we have so much, we are so fortunate to be in the Western world because during the pandemic, I follow Nitika Chopra, and she's Indian, and she is an activist, and she had a campaign going to help to get young Indian girls during the pandemic, or young women even, um, sanitary napkins
Mhm.
and just all of the things to support their feminine hygiene, because during the pandemic their lockdown was such that only one person was allowed to go out about to get supplies about once per week because it was really devastating for that part of the world, and they cannot speak about their cycle. So
Mhm.
there were young women and there were women at home who could not take care of themselves hygienically because of course a man is going to be the one that went, and they would be shamed and punished, and it would be like an absolute insult for the young woman to mention her cycle, let
Mhm.
alone expect him to provide her with hygienic products. So, of course, we have it even way better than something like that, but it's not spoken of. And
Yeah.
the expiration of the feminine doesn't expire.
No, it does not. It does not. That's why when you said I've stepped into perimenopause, I said, congratulations. No, welcome. I'm glad that you're here because that phase of life is one not talked about. It's very silent. Like I'm
Mhm.
having, as I said, I'm just stepping into this role and really owning the title of menopause coach.
Oh,
But
cool.
when men ask me, what do you do? And I say, I'm a transformational menopause coach, they're like, oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not limited to men.
No, it's good.
Talking about women's health
Mhm,
is something that we don't do anywhere in the
mhm,
culture,
mhm,
particularly. We
mhm.
and we certainly don't do it very well because there is so much stigma and there is so much, and I was saying to you before, women's bodies are so complex
Yeah,
that
no kidding.
it has become an excuse for why we don't value and spend the money
Mm,
in research in really figuring it out. And I will
mm,
say one of the things that I loved most about the training that I did to become a menopause coach was throughout the course continually was the refrain of every woman is different. Every woman's body functions differently. Every woman's experience is different because of their physicality and because of their lived realities. And
mhm.
so you have to treat the woman in front of you.
Yeah.
And we live in a culture where we want everyone to fit into specific boxes of, oh, there's this. This is what perimenopause looks like. So the
Mhm,
things that we think we know when we hear about that are hot flashes.
mhm.
Oh, hot flashes and night sweats. And those are the things that happen. And then you move on. That is like this much of the story,
Yeah.
and it's a curated story. Like,
Yes.
yes, those things happen, but they don't for everyone.
Mhm.
And
I've had, like, 3 night sweats, and
yeah,
that's it, but I haven't had any hot flashes.
yes.
So yeah, I don't know. And the hot flashes, again, like, that when that happens big fat in front of everyone, what are you gonna do, you know?
Mhm. Yep.
Because it does. I've been around women, I haven't had one, but I've been around women having them, and they have to can you
Yeah.
imagine how, again, if people are uncomfortable with it? "No, I'm
Mhm.
not having a heart attack, I'm having a hot flash." That's what's but it's
Yes.
so
Yes.
stigmatized at the worst, and then just, like, shut out at best. I mean,
Mhm.
no, at best, obviously, at best is it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, do you
Yeah.
need anything? You want a glass of water?" Like, make it normal, make it okay, just, like, move on.
Yes. Here's an ice pack. Put it on the
Yeah,
back of your neck. That will really help.
yeah.
Like, there's things that we can do, but because of the layers of shame that exist
Mhm,
around women's cyclical health in particular,
mhm.
it's really challenging to make spaces where women can have these experiences in respectful and dignified ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so amazing because I really didn't know. I know that you work with transitions, and
Mhm.
I inferred into this that it possibly also had to do with hormonal health and transitions and balancing and everything. But I didn't know that you specifically are a menopause coach now. And I'm telling you guys, the
Yeah.
synchronicity of this is weird because it was right before we started the podcast. I was like, wait, I think I'm having cramps, but that's weird. And I just
Mhm.
read that shorter cycles are one of the big symptoms of perimenopause. And so I just started perimenopause because of meeting with you.
Of course.
Not because of meeting
Again,
with you.
you're welcome.
You made me have perimenopause. No,
That's what
it's
I do.
but no,
I
that's the
sprinkle my menopause dust.
but no, what it is the how spirit really
Yes.
synchronizes everything so beautifully, and that's what we're talking about the cyclical nature of a woman, her health
Yeah.
and everything, and the fact that this is somehow not embraced is contrary to nature and contrary to spirit, and we
Mhm.
have this artificial evening out of cycles that we mostly adhere to,
Yes.
except for the fact that we have like winter holidays and then whatever else we have, but those aren't even a part of nature really. Like those are also artificially imposed. Even our new year is completely artificial. It's nothing to do with season.
Yeah. It's
You know?
yeah, it's a lot of the reason why I resonate so deeply with the pagan world,
Mhm.
because
Yeah, absolutely.
that is the holidays that we have absconded
Yeah.
are connected to the earth and to nature,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But I always feel like the most sacred day of the year is December 21st or
Right.
22nd, whichever the winter solstice falls on.
Mhm.
And in that deep darkness,
Yeah.
right? That just feels really sacred at that time.
Mhm.
And so that's where I always feel that connection to cycle and to rhythm. And when we really tap into what's happening in our bodies and what's happening on the earth, that's where we see those cycles, right? I live in Ontario, Canada. So I live in a deeply seasonal place.
Mhm.
And I actually can't imagine, although, I mean, in March, I'm over it. Like, I'm over winter. However, I can't imagine living without those cycles because I feel the way they work in my energy
Yeah.
and in the way I'm experiencing the world through how nature is cycling through.
Yeah.
And so if we think about that maiden, mother and crone analogy, the spring is when we're feeling that maiden energy of new and fresh. And then mother happens in summertime, right? Where we're living in the light and we're working toward harvest. And the thing that I love about the solstice is that it's so deeply connected with crone.
Mm.
And I feel like it's a great way to unwind some of the negative stereotype around that there is this deep beauty
Mhm.
in a little bit of stillness and a little bit of quietness and a little
Mhm.
bit of darkness. It might not be as glamorous as the other seasons or the other phases, but it is deeply connected.
And it's faith, because
Hmm.
the solstice is the shortest day of the year, the when we are furthest from the sun, and then it's going to the very next day, we've moved just closest we move closer to the sun again.
Hmm.
And so it is the energy of having faith that the light comes again.
Yes.
And if we just look at our life, even as a crone, as if we are nearing the end of our life, and we can either be in fear and resistance to the fact that this life is changing over to something else, or ending, if we think of it that way, or we can
Hmm.
have the gratitude and wealth of the whole life, and maybe the light is coming again in another way. We don't, even if we have the paradigm that makes sense to us of reincarnation, we don't really know it from this perspective, but we
Hmm.
feel something. We feel something must make sense, because each day, every diurnal cycle, it's like a whole new life. So it
Hmm.
seems like it makes sense to me that the the soul is designed that way, not just the life is designed that way. But still, I like to keep the student's mind that I won't know, but but the hope of it, and if anything else, again, the gratitude of it. I have had
Yeah.
this, and I own all of this. Nothing is going away. I'm richer
Hmm.
and wealthier right now. So in the darkest day with the shortest amount of light, where we're furthest away from sun, furthest away from the giver of life, the sun, then we have the hope and we have the gratitude of it coming the next day. And I agree. I obviously love the solstice too. I love the pagan
Hmm.
holidays.
Yeah, me
I mean,
too.
I'm European heritage, and so
Hmm.
I'm actually a Norse and Celtic, and both from way back when we from Norse, and then in Celtic a little more recent in my ancestry of women, of witches, and so
Yes.
I really embrace all of that very much.
Same. Yes, my roots are very much grounded in the
Mhm.
Celtic world. And
Yeah.
so that, yeah, my actually one of the last episodes of my podcast, I had a woman on and we were talking about healing our witch wounds,
Yes.
which is such powerful work. and is again another feature of one of the things that is really beautiful about this transitional time.
Mhm.
Because I talk a lot about the alchemy that
Mhm.
happens between when your physical body is changing,
Mhm.
as well as every way you've known yourself in the world up until this point is also changing. And
Mhm.
so all those elements of who we are, our identity, our physicality, it's all unfolding, right? It's all unraveling. And that can feel scary, but at the same time, it's this moment of incredible liberation
Yeah.
where you actually get to start asking yourself questions like, who am I? And
Mhm.
what do I want?
Mhm.
And those two questions, the majority of women that I see and work with have never even had the opportunity to ask themselves. And even when we were younger, when we think back to those earlier cycles, when we were making decisions, we had some agency in it, yes. However, there still was a lot of external pressure
Mhm.
for the decisions that we were making.
Yeah.
So it's now when we've had all of this lived experience, when we've had a, a vast array of relationships and interactions, that we now come to this place of much deeper wisdom than when I was, in my younger years,
Mhm.
and being able to write who I really want to be in this world. And so that is why part of why I'm so passionate about this work as well is that there's a lot of negative stereotype around menopause, but my goal is to change that into like, are there some uncomfortable physical things that happen? Absolutely. Yeah, there are. I'm not going to deny that. However, this is a time for you where you actually get to focus on your health. You get to focus on everything about you and you get to liberate yourself from all the things that no longer serve you in your life.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And you know, we talked about how like there isn't a lot known about it. I don't know.
Mhm.
Well, for example, my mother, when she was when she was 33, she actually had a hysterectomy. And I remember when she
Mhm.
was in her mid 40s and I was in high school then, um, she was like, "I don't know if I'm gonna have menopause because I don't know what like she's like, "I don't know what organs I have or I don't have." Like she either
Yeah.
didn't remember or they didn't really inform her or they told her and she didn't get it. So she didn't know like, do I have ovaries? Does that mean I'll have a menopause or not? Like, so she had no idea and she probably didn't. I mean, I guess maybe she could have gone to her gynecologist and asked questions, but and
Mhm.
then so other than that, I haven't had anyone. I have friends in high school from high school and, from my age group, and they're starting to go like, "Wait, I think I just started my perimenopause." All of a sudden I'm sweating like, "What do I do now?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What do we do?" Actually, my best friend from junior high, we were best friends in 6th and 7th grade, and then I moved out of Texas. But we she started I remember so clearly, she started her period exactly 1 month before me. I started exactly 1 month after her. It was over the summer.
Yeah.
It was so cute.
Mhm.
So, a few months ago, she was posting, she's like, "Okay, guys, if you're uncomfortable with this, you might wanna pass this one, but I just started perimenopause, I started getting night sweats," and she called it something like the witch store, it was some kind of holistic store, and they gave her some kind of supplement, and she said, "It's
Mm.
amazing," so she got a
Mhm.
supplement that was helping her in those early stages, and she was like she goes, "Apparently, it's kinda like you talking about with the kids." She goes, "It doesn't happen gradually, it happens overnight." I don't it just
Mhm.
started like that. And
Yeah, and again, that depends on it's so individual to every woman,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
So it has been a bit of a gradual build for me. Like a couple of years ago, it was during COVID actually. I started having night sweats and I was like,
mm,
what's that about? But my
mm,
cycle remained very consistent.
yeah.
And it's hit or miss. I had my first hot flash just in the spring actually, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, things are ramping up now. I see, I understand.
It's go.
Um,
It's go time.
yeah. But every woman's experience is so different.
Mhm,
And there are some women who don't actually have any symptoms at all. Like I've
mhm,
spoken to women who are like, yeah, just my period just stopped one day and that was it. So it is really, and that's why it's so important to really tune in and pay attention to your body. When you're talking about your friend who was posting about that and thinking back to, I was like, yeah, in many ways it is like when we were first getting our periods,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
That
mhm,
and there's so much secrecy around it, and don't tell anyone about it. And actually, one of my most embarrassing stories ever comes from that time in my life, because I got my period when I was in grade 6. So I
Yeah.
was 12, 11.
Yeah, I was 11. It was between 6th and 7th grade, so yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And my grade 6 teacher, so I told a couple of friends, but again, there's that culture of like secrecy, don't tell anybody.
Mhm.
And my teacher at the end of the school day said, "Hey, Lisa, can you stay? I need to talk to you." And I did not ever get in trouble at school. So my heart was already racing. I'm like, why would I need to stay after school? And she said, one of my classmates, a boy, Nathan, his mother called and said that Nathan came home and said that you got your period and that it is his fault. And I was
What?
like,
What's happening here?
what? Exactly. Like, I was so, imagine
Yeah.
at
Oh,
11 years old,
mortified. Yeah.
my grade 6 teacher, who was female, thankfully, but the grade 6 male teacher happened to be standing in the doorway as we're having this conversation. And my dad worked at the school. So there was all of this, like,
I'm like, why are they involving the 11-year-old girl? If an 11-year-old boy had this weird thought, who knows why he had it? Why did they even tell you that?
yeah, well, because apparently people in the class were telling him. So she was asking me,
But it doesn't
did you
involve you. Did you Okay, I guess
she's
did
like,
you say
did you
that?
tell someone that it was Nathan's fault that you got your period? I was like, no, I
I don't
don't.
even know how that works. I don't know
I'm
how any of
pretty
it works.
sure it has nothing, but I'm pretty sure it has nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And it is that level of misinformation, of not understanding how women's bodies work. And then again, we start seeing that same kind of like narrative happen at this phase of life,
Mhm.
and coming back into that, like, I don't know, why is this happening? What's happening? What can I do about it? And it's also why I feel like intergenerational conversation is so important,
Oh,
because
yeah.
when you start investing in your body when you're in your 20s and 30s, and I know people who are in their 20s and 30s, because I have some girlfriends who I've been having this conversation with, and they're like, you say menopause or perimenopause. They're like, first of all, one, I don't even know what perimenopause is.
Yeah,
And I
uh-huh,
was
I
like,
know.
oh, it's really important for you to know what that
Yeah,
is.
and it can last 10 years, they say. It doesn't usually I don't
Yes,
think it doesn't often last 10 years, though. I keep reading that, but I think
it can.
it can, I guess, but most of
Hmm.
the women that I have been talking to, they're like, "Yeah, a couple years, you'll be fine."
Yeah.
That's the general, item, but again, we're just talking about statistics, that doesn't count
Yeah.
for the individual
General.
experience, yeah.
General trends. But
Mhm.
the more that you pour into your body when you are in your 20s and 30s, the better position that you're in when you head into perimenopause,
Yeah.
because there is actually not a single system in your body that is not impacted by the fluctuation of estrogen and progesterone. So
Mhm.
even like in this conversation, we've been talking about some of the like really physical things, but it also really impacts your mental health. It
Mhm.
impacts your emotional health. Like I said, it impacts the roles that you play in the world. And so, the more that you have routines set up in your life that allow you to connect with who you really are, one, and then two, as well, the more that you invest in your physicality, in your physical
Yeah.
health in your earlier years, the better. So, resistance training is one of the
Mhm.
number one things. So, it's actually lifting weights and stress reduction. Those are the two game changers for the whole process.
Wow, but also, I think I was, when I just had a doctor's appointment recently, and the nurse was, like, checking me out, and she was like, "Do you still have your cycle?" And I was like, "Yep." And she's like, "Well, okay, when was the last one?" 'Cause she saw my age, and then she's 48, and she was like, "Oh, I'm getting so many hot flashes. How are you doing?" I'm like, "No, not hot flashes yet or anything." And she said, "Well, you know what? Do you eat sugar?" I said, "No, like, almost
Mhm.
never." And she goes, "That's gonna help you." She said, "'Cause I have a sugar
Yep,
problem," and she said, it's making my symptoms a lot worse," which so again, what your intake.
absolutely.
Also movement. So I do a lot of walking and hiking and everything, and
Mhm.
stretching. So this is the trifecta for so far as movement. It is resistance training.
Yep.
It is also stretching like yoga, and so, you can do
Yes.
there's some resistance and if you do more advanced yoga too, so that's a good thing. It's a twofer. And also just movement, and
Mhm.
it is this the more the investment in our this is the soil. that we plant
Yes,
all of our seeds. And
exactly.
we are conditioned by either our caregivers and or the culture to negate this. And that's
Yes.
why all of us are bad, not all of us, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but we're not good at breathing. We have to learn how to breathe. But breathing
Hmm.
nurtures the fire, balances the fire within us, the nervous system, and then that helps the soil to be properly balanced. In every moment that we're stressed, the first thing that we need to do is breathe. And that will actually
Yes.
take care of the stress, but we actually have a training also, a mindset that worry keeps us safe.
Yes.
Worry makes us a good girl or boy. It makes us
Hmm.
work harder. And that's all false.
Hmm. Yes, it is. But it keeps us awfully busy.
Yeah.
Right? I refer to it as the patriarchal busy box, right?
Yeah.
If we are in those programs of, yes, I am safe if I'm worrying. Yes, I am safe if I am working harder than I
Hmm.
actually have capacity to, all of those things. It keeps us, that's what keeps us small, right? It
Yeah.
keeps us in the box. And that's why this reconnection to the body
Yeah.
is so deeply important and critical.
I posted on the YouTube channel a section. I have done the last couple of months live channeling with my Modern Mystic subscription platform where I'm channeling
Hmm.
an archangel for the whole like 90 minutes. And there's a moderator who's taking questions. And so one person, it was a woman, asked, "What do I need to know about my work situation?" And the whole message was, what you need to do is breathe. You need to breathe regularly because if you regulate your nervous
Hmm.
system, it will make you magnetic. Because as it is right now, when we are dysregulated, you actually no one can see, or not no one, but you know what I mean? Like you aren't recognized for your gifts. You can't be
Hmm.
seen for who you are. The magnetism is dulled because the nervous system needs to be balanced. And so breathing, as unfortunate for humans, it feels like that's such a bummer to hear that it's so simple because we've
Hmm.
always believed we believe things are really complex and mysterious.
Yep.
Really just breathing, I just get to do that all the time. How can that be the answer? But it's,
Mhm.
it's that's it.
It
It's just
is.
part of it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what you said around, the myths of complexity, that this all has to be really hard and really painful. Because it actually also can be really joyful and really
Mhm.
fun.
Mhm.
So just before we were talking, you had asked me about my journal that I wrote,
Oh, yes,
and
thank you.
it was exactly for this purpose. Because when I'm
Mhm.
working with women and I'm talking about somatic reconnection, I always start with breath.
Mhm.
And sometimes women are still asking me, but how do I actually come back into my body? How do I
Yeah.
actually reconnect? So
Yeah.
that was sort of floating around in my mind. And I was thinking about what I do for myself. And I also, at the same time, was reflecting on my podcast content. And it had been really pretty heavy for a little while. So I thought, I want to just do something that's kind of joyful and fun. And what's that for me? And for me, it's music. So all of a sudden, I just had this
Yeah.
download of like, your life is a soundtrack.
Mm.
And when you think about the different areas of your life, what songs come to mind and how do they help you reconnect to your body? Because when we hear a song that we're really deeply connected to, for me anyway, I am immediately like, I can feel the carpet I was sitting on. I can
Mhm.
feel what the air felt like around me. I can smell the perfume of my friend who was sitting beside me, whatever it is. So all of that sensory memory starts to flood back in with music because music uses all elements of the brain to
Yeah.
process, right?
Mm.
So that's why I created that journal. So I have a podcast episode about it, but then I created the journal as a practice for people so there it walks them through how to write the soundtrack of their life and how to choose one song every day to use as a somatic grounding touch point.
Ooh,
So in the morning, you sort of think through, and for me, it's just I close my eyes and I listen, and a song will come up. I'm like, that's my song for today.
I'm
And
getting
I
chills. I love
use
it.
oh, good. So I use it as a way to come back into my body. And then there's a reflection at the end of the day to think about how did I intentionally use that throughout the day.
Mhm.
And it's been really helpful for people in giving them a really concrete way to reconnect with the somatic self.
Oh, That's beautiful, and I love and just think about it too, in order to sing that song, you have to breathe correctly, right? If
Exactly.
you're gonna
Yes.
join in.
That's why when you were talking about breath, it made me think about it because you do
Uh-huh.
have to breathe and the rhythm gets into that breath cycle.
Mm. Oh, Lisa, this is so
Yeah.
amazing. So you have this journal available. Is it available on Amazon and everything
It is
for
available
okay,
on Amazon.
great. And
Yes.
so we have
Yeah.
all of Lisa's links in the show notes here. And how else can people connect with you, work with you? What do you have coming up? Let us know what's going on and how they can be a part of your world.
Yeah. So you can find me anywhere. I'm on all the social media places at Elbow for the most part. I'm sure my website is in the show
Yeah,
notes.
it
And
is.
the coaching container that I use is called Reclaiming Your Magic. And it is a 3 month, once weekly one-to-one sessions with me, as well as daily interactions to make sure that whatever we're talking about in your session is actually being woven into your everyday. And then on Fridays, I have office hours. So we have a quick little connection if that's something that you need. But that's what I'm working on in the world. And every Thursday, my podcast, Transforming 45, comes out. So it's a space for women to come and tell their transformational stories, to start creating a lot of narrative around what this phase of womanhood looks like.
Well, I think I have to come back on because a few months ago I wasn't Perry and now I'm Perry. So it's like
Yeah,
I have a whole different transition happening.
we'll keep talking about it because there's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh, this has been so incredible. I just love the work that you're doing, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing for our beautiful world and our beautiful divine feminine. You're just really incredible. Thanks for being on.
Oh, well, thank you for making this space. I was really glad to be here today.
Oh, thank you. We'll have to have you on again. Excuse me, I have to
Yeah.
it's live. When you gotta cough, you gotta cough. That's life,
Awesome.
right? That's what it
It
is. So
absolutely.
well, thank you so much, Lisa. Everyone, this is Lisa Boat. Check her out. And thank you for coming on once more. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, that was just about our show. If I can get the logo off my head, I had the best time talking with Lisa, and I had the best time hanging out with you guys too. I wanted to give you a couple more alerts of some things that are going on. And that is, I have my signature courses, my multidimensional mediumship and my animal communication course. They are available as they're actually available on demand right now. And if you want to check them out, there's two things that are going on with it. Right now, there is a special rate. It's going to be changing really soon. But the other thing is to you can make either 3 or 6 month payments on it. And I'm about to, for the rest of just this year, institute a 12-month payment plan so that you can go at your own pace and you can also invest at a easy pace for you. So that's what I have for you. Once again, as I talked about at the beginning of the show, I want to give you something to contemplate, and that is that your mindset is a set of boundaries about how you curate the space, the resonant space of your beautiful energy. The thoughts that you have in your mind, that you allow your mind to be fed, are like guests in your home. And so we want to hold those boundaries in a loving way so that you only have guests in your home that are able to appreciate you and able to help you nurture yourself. That's how we create a wealth mindset, a health mindset, a self-love mindset, a growth mindset. So keep an eye out for when I'm going to be doing these podcasts again. I'm going live on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, and also join my newsletter so that you can catch all of that great content that's coming through. So that's what we have for this episode. I hope that you embrace your divine feminine and that you are well attuned to the beauty of who you are. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.